Hello everyone, my name is Swanee, and thanks for stopping by and checking out my channel. Now for today's video, I figured I'd do a bit of a top 10 ranking video. In my previous ranking video, I did a tier list of all the weapons in Helldivers 2, which was a bit controversial. So for this video, I'm going to be steering away from a tier list, and I'm just going to do a ranking of the top 10 best stratagems. Now in this list, I'm not necessarily saying that one is better than the other. I think every single one of these is good in their own ways, depending on the situation and the mission that you're on. So think of this list as more of my personal favorite top 10, and I'm not necessarily saying that like number 1 is better than number 10. In certain missions, number 10 could outdo number 1, for example. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into the list. Now coming in at number 10, I decided to go with the supply pack. Now the supply pack I think is just absolutely great. It works with all of the support weapons, so if you have a grenade launcher or a rail gun or a machine gun, it will supply ammo to those weapons so you can just constantly have them out and keep reloading them. The supply pack is really useful for helping out your teammates. If a teammate is low on ammo, they can request ammo and you can just give them some extra ammo. This will also refill their support weapons if they have a big support weapon like a railgun or a grenade launcher. The supply pack will also refill your grenades, so if you're doing one of those missions where you have to blow up the bug nests or you have to blow up the robot factories and you have to throw a grenade into the little holes, the supply pack is really great for those missions because you're going to be just burning through your grenades. And with this game's reload mechanic, if you're in the habit where you just like to reload after every kill, you're going to burn through your ammo so quickly, because if you reload too early, you can miss out on an entire half of a magazine. So if you're in the habit of reloading after every kill and you just can't break the habit, just get the supply pack. It's going to come in clutch and it's going to keep you full of ammo pretty much at all times. And I just love bringing the supply pack on most of my missions, and that's why it made it into my top 10. So coming in at number 9, I'm kind of cheating a little bit here because I'm doing kind of 2 in 1, but I'm including both of the mortar sentries. Now if I had to pick one over the other, I would have to go with the EMS mortar sentry because it stun locks the enemies and holds them in place for you, but both of them are really essential to certain game modes, like for example the Eradicate Forces missions, which is basically just like the Gears Horde mode where you just sit in one spot and all the enemies come to you. Anytime you do one of these missions, 9 times out of 10 people are going to pick one of the mortars because it just spawn camps the enemy. Anytime the dropships come in and they drop off more reinforcements, these mortars will just wipe them out as soon as they get dropped off. Like I said, the EMS mortar will hold the enemies in place and electrocute them, and then the regular mortar sentry will just dish out a ton of damage. So both of them are really good, and that's why I'm putting them in at number 9. So up next, at number 8, I put the recoilless rifle. Now this thing is great at taking out tanks, it's great at taking out the dropships, because if you didn't know, if you aim for the thrusters, it will one-shot kill every single one of the dropships. So it's also one of my must-haves for the Eradicate Horde missions. There are just so many dropships coming in on these missions that I love to just sit up at the very top of the map and just pick off all the dropships as they fly in. And the recoilless rifle is really good at taking out the charger bugs, and I just hate the charger bugs. They're just big and annoying, and the recoilless rifle will make short work of them. So I love it for that reason. And as a bonus, it can be rapid fired with 2 people. If you are carrying the rifle and your teammate is carrying the ammo backpack, they can latch onto you and continuously feed you some rockets, so you can rapidly fire off a ton of shots that will do a massive amount of damage. And in my opinion, I think this is the overall just best rocket launcher, and that's why I'm putting it at number 8 on my list. So up next, at number 7, I'm putting the Guard Dog Rover. Now this is the one that shoots the laser rifle, and the reason I'm going with the laser rifle version over the regular version that has a machine gun is because the laser rifle will just continuously fire until all of your enemies are defeated. Every time I use this thing, it just keeps shooting and shooting and shooting, and it feels like it never has to reload. Versus with the other one, it reloads constantly. Like the machine gun variant, it'll shoot like just a couple shots off and then it has to reload. But with the Rover version that has the laser rifle, it will just keep shooting at enemies. So this is great if you're a solo player, especially if you're being chased by like 5 million bugs. You can simply just be on the run and this thing will watch your back as you're running away from the enemy. It will shoot the enemies behind you, so that's great. Plus, it's nice just to have a little bit of backup, especially if you're a solo player, you don't have anyone, or if the servers are acting up and you can't do matchmaking. This is a great stratagem just to give you a little bit of extra support, and it works really well if you shoot the same targets in tandem. If you focus your fire on whatever it's shooting at, the combined damage between the two of you is going to wreck pretty much anything that you guys are shooting at. So I can't recommend this one enough to solo players, and that's why I'm putting it at number 7. So up next on the list, I'm putting the Eagle Cluster Bomb. Now, to be honest, I never even used the Eagle Cluster Bomb until I hit level 50, and I saw someone on Reddit saying that it was really good, so, I wanted to test it out for myself. And I gotta say, the Eagle Cluster Bomb is pretty good. Now, you get 4 of these before it has to go on cooldown, but if you upgrade it in the ship modules, you can get 5 of these. So you can get 5 cluster bombs before it has to go on cooldown. That is really good compared to most of the other stratagems in this game. And it does a ton of damage. This thing is great if there's a large group of enemies, especially on the bug missions. There are just so many bugs in certain places, and they like to cluster up and they chase you in just large packs. So I like to just throw it at my feet or throw it behind me, and it will just wipe out anything that's chasing you. The cluster bomb is also really good on those missions where you have to destroy a bunch of eggs or you have to destroy the bug nests, but they're also really good against the robots as well. I don't really have any complaints when it comes to the cluster bomb. I think it's one of the best ones in the game, and that's why it's coming in at number 6. So up next at number 5 is the Eagle 500 kg bomb. So this bomb actually feels like a bomb. Every time I use this thing, it reminds me of the bunker buster bombs from the old Mercenary games. I don't know if anyone here remembers those games or not, but I think the 500 kg bomb is just so much fun to use. Every time I call this thing in and it drops and then it has that huge explosion, oh, it's just so cool to watch it go off. But outside of it looking cool, this thing does a ton of damage. It is great at taking out large groups of enemies. I've gotten anywhere from like 10 to 20 kills in a single bomb out of this thing. It's really good at taking out buildings, so if you need to destroy like the robot factories, or there's one of those side objectives where you have to blow up the old science facilities. And it's really good at taking out some of the larger enemies like the Chargers, the tanks, and the Titans. The only downside with the 500 kg bomb is that it has a little bit of a long cooldown, which can be upgraded with the ship module, but overall I really like it and I highly recommend it. And that's why it's at number 5. Now up next at number 4, I have the Rail Cannon Strike. Now the Rail Cannon Strike is pretty similar to the 500 kg bomb in terms of like damage, but one of the things that I really love about the Rail Cannon Strike is that it's really fast and it's super accurate, and it prioritizes the biggest enemy in the area. So if it's a Titan or a Charger or a robot tank, no matter what it is, the biggest enemy closest to you is going to get absolutely wrecked. And the fact that it only takes 1 to 2 seconds between when you call it in and when it actually strikes is a huge plus, because sometimes you have a big enemy, he's heavily armored like a Charger, and they're getting right up in your face and you have to act quickly or you're going to die. Well, this Rail Cannon Strike will save your butt like 9 times out of 10. And the Rail Cannon Strike will also take out buildings such as the robot factories and stuff as well. So just overall, I think the Rail Cannon Strike is really good. And for me personally, in the final 3 hardest difficulty modes, this thing is almost always in my loadout because of just how useful it is. So I highly recommend the Rail Cannon Strike. It's one of my personal favorites, and that's why it's coming in at number 4. So coming in at number 3, I decided to go with the Railgun, because the Railgun, in my opinion, is probably the best support weapon. It is amazing. The Railgun is designed to just pretty much one-shot most enemy types. And the Railgun is also really great at taking out the bigger creatures as well. And I personally love the Railgun just so much because it does a great job at taking down the Chargers. So anything that can take them down quick and easy is going to be a really good stratagem in my opinion. The Railgun will just blow the legs off of the Chargers, and then you can just kill them with a follow-up shot or just a couple shots after that. The Railgun is also really good at taking out the tanks or any of the robots with the shields. Like, the Railgun is just awesome. Anything that has medium or heavy armor, it's going to melt right through it, and you can overcharge the Railgun so it does even more damage. It is easily one of the best support weapons in the entire game, especially in the late game content where you're dealing with just tons of large enemy types. Can't go wrong with the railgun. That's why it's at number 3. So up next at number 2 is the Shield Generator Pack, or I'm just going to call it the Personal Shield. Now the Personal Shield is pretty difficult to unlock. You have to be level 20 to get it, so it's the very last stratagem that you can unlock in the game, and it is 100% worth it, especially if you're a solo player, because this thing has saved my life so many times. It says that it's a shield that blocks high-speed projectiles, but it will also block the bugs and like melee attacks and explosions. It will pretty much block anything, and it's pretty durable. I've been able to take just straight up rockets to the face, and this shield will deflect them. So in the late game content on those really hard difficulties, and you're just swarmed by tanks and titans and all kinds of stuff, the Personal Shield is a must-have. It's good in pretty much every scenario, and you know, you can't go wrong with being able to take more damage, and this is a really good way to stay alive longer. So I think the Personal Shield is one of the best stratagems in the entire game, and I'm putting it at number 2. And before we get to number 1, I want to bring up 2 honorable mentions, and they are the HGM Emplacement Turret and the Autocannon. Now the HGM Emplacement Turret is just a personal turret, and I know a lot of people don't really like this. I never see people use it, but I think it's underrated. I know that it locks you into one place and it can kind of take you out of the battle sometimes, but this emplacement turret is really good on those horde mode missions where the enemies have to come to you, and it's absolutely amazing when you're trying to defend an extraction point. You know, on those crazy long missions where they're like 40 minutes long, you have to call in an extraction and it takes like 3 minutes for the extraction ship to show up, and then it just gets absolutely crazy with the amount of enemies they throw at you. Well, the HGM Emplacement Turret is really good at defending the extraction points. It will just wreck anything with medium to light armor. And then the autocannon I want to mention because it's also really good, especially if you have a teammate that's carrying the ammo backpack for you. They can just continuously pump you full of ammo, and you can set the autocannon to full auto and just mow down everything. It does pretty crazy damage. I don't like it as much as the railgun, but if I had to add another one to this list, it would have been the autocannon. So now finally coming in at the number 1 spot, my personal favorite stratagem in all of Helldivers 2 is the orbital laser. And because the orbital laser is just good against everything. When you deploy this thing, it will just keep shooting down from the sky until everything is dead. If there's like 10 enemies, it will just go one after the other, killing everything in its path. And for those bigger enemies, like the Chargers or the Titans, it will just focus on the biggest enemy and will just cook it until it dies. I love the orbital laser. It has saved my butt so many times, just in the horde missions where there's tons of enemies. Right before I go to extract, I will drop this thing and it will get me a couple seconds of cover. You can't go wrong with the orbital laser. It will just shred through tanks. It will cook anything, and it lasts a pretty long time as well. I was impressed with just how long this laser just keeps going. Right when I think that, you know, it's killed everything, it will just auto lock onto the next nearby enemy and just travel over to it, killing anything in its path. So it may not dish out a ton of damage directly all in one hit like the 500 kg bomb or the rail cannon strike, but it does a lot of damage over a longer period of time. And I personally would rather have an orbital laser just beaming down, watching my back, killing anything around me, versus a bomb that goes off, explodes, and then, you know, there could be some stragglers that survive, or the bomb kills you or your teammates. The laser's a lot easier to avoid. It's not going to kill your teammates as often, and, you know, the laser doesn't really have too many downsides. So for me personally, it's my number 1 pick. I put it in almost every single one of my loadouts. I love the thing. I think it's amazing. You know, every single thing on this list is good in their own, like, unique scenarios, but I think the orbital laser is good for pretty much every scenario. So that is going to do it for my top 10 best stratagems in Helldivers 2. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below, and if there's any stratagems that didn't make this list that you think should have made it, then let me know what they are down in the comments. So thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. That way you guys don't miss out on any future videos. And that's going to do it for me, guys, and I will talk to you all next time.